Yeah, so as I was saying, not knowing, this kind of vital ground of our practice. And not knowing is something that people can be uncomfortable with, right? It can bring up different reactions and different feelings. So we're going to look a little bit into that today. So it's a public forum. It's being recorded. The sessions are posted on the Dive In YouTube channel, so you can actually go and see them there. We have started putting all the back episodes up there with specific sort of timestamps of the different topics that are addressed. So if you're actually looking for a guided practice, because many of them begin with a little guided practice, that's one place you could go. And if you want to catch up or go and look at any episodes that you didn't see, or any meetings that you didn't come to, any topics, you can go and see what's there and check them out. So please feel free to share these also. You can follow on YouTube. And yeah, let other people know about it if you find it useful and interesting. So as usual, we're going to begin with a short practice, right? A little guided practice. And the little practice that we do here has some connection with our topic. So I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable position for meditation. So just being comfortably in your chair, feel your feet on the ground for a moment. Sense your bum in the chair. Take a breath. You can sense all the way up your spine, just making sure your spine is upright but relaxed. Release any tension in your eyes or your jaw. And then I want you to invite your felt sense attention down to your lower belly. So this area that we use for our meditation, our concentration meditation practice. Bring your sensing to your lower belly. You can have your hands resting on your lower belly, if you like. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to notice what happens immediately after I ask you the question. So what do you sense in your lower belly? So notice what happened just after I asked that question. Because possibly right away, you may or may not have actually known. You may still not know. So to just notice that one moment, that little moment of not knowing, what do I sense in my belly? And probably as you hold your attention there and you feel that question, you begin to follow that question, you might begin to recognize some things that you could say. Oh, I feel this, or I sense that. And if you stay with that, what do you sense in your belly now? Is it the same? Does it seem different in some way? You might find that you could say something like, I feel something there. Do you know what it is? maybe initially you're like, well, I don't know, just there's something, maybe some warmth, or maybe a bit of tightness or tingling. Maybe the movement of my belly as I breathe. What do you sense in your belly now? Do you know? Can you say for sure? Or what could you say for sure? Maybe there's something you can recognize and say, ah, yes, that. But then you might notice a minute later already, is that what it is? Still? So what do you sense in your belly now? How is it to relax with the question and just see? Or did you find you had to tighten up and tense up and try and find something quickly to come out with, to say? Can you hang out without exactly knowing what it is that you're in touch with? Can you stay sensing your belly, even if you don't really know exactly what is happening there? Or what that sensation is? Now I'm going to invite you to just stay sensing your belly, in contact with whatever it is that you can sense there, whether you know what it is or not, whether you can tell what it is or not, whether you have a word for it or not. Just continuing to stay in touch for a few minutes. So you practice your concentration, practice placing your attention there. And take one more breath, sensing your belly. And then release the concentration. And take a moment to just feel where you are, the effects of this short meditation. And I'm going to ask you again a few more questions. I'm going to put the questions to you. And I want you to notice the space after the question. The period after the question when you're aware of the question, but you may not yet know or have an answer. So, how are you feeling now? What feelings are present or are around? What are you sensing in your body? What parts of your body come into your awareness with some kind of sensation? What are you conscious of? What are you recognizing in this moment? And where are you? Like, what's up for you? What's been going on in your life or your inner process? What feels important? What are the things that have been going on that are drawing on you, need to be looked at, that you're curious about? Yeah, what are you curious about? What do you want to know or find out about? Could also say that as, what don't you yet know? What don't you yet know or understand? What is not fully known to you? Yeah, and just notice what happens. What happens both in responding to the questions and also how it was to notice perhaps the moment or moments, short moments, longer moments of not knowing, not yet knowing an answer. And when you're ready to, begin sensing your arms and legs. Tensing your arms and legs. And adding listening, consciously listening. And then looking. Oh. See if you can write a word or two, a couple of words in the chat about how it was to notice the not knowing. Like, was that easy? Was it not actually a thing you straight away knew? Was it disconcerting? Was it tantalizing? What could you say about it? To see those moments of not knowing, to kind of feel them. Relaxing, unusual, amazed, familiar, relief, contentment, relieving. That's interesting. Usual. It's like a background. Yeah. Sometimes delightful, sometimes more of a contraction. Familiar, okay. Surprising. Anxious to find an answer. Fullness. Urgency to know. Right, yeah. A whole range of responses. Eh? I actually, this topic arose when I was sitting one afternoon not long ago and under some pressure to come up with a topic. And I really didn't know. I was like, what are we going to do at the next dive in? I've got a whole string of possibilities, but actually I think we're going to do those later in the year. So what am I going to do this week? And I really didn't know. And I could feel myself, kind of scrambling for an answer and trying to come up with something. And then I just felt that immediate experience of like, wow, I really don't know. I really don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I should do here. And it was like, oh, that's really interesting, right? This not knowing. I mean, we talk about it all the time in the diamond approach and in inquiry, right? But to really land in that state of not knowing, to kind of recognize it and be okay with it is actually quite an interesting thing. So I was curious that a number of people said relieving. Like, that was really interesting. So there's something relieving about giving space to the not knowing, about being able to just go, oh, so right now I don't know. And I don't have to know. And I can just let that happen. And at some point, something arises, right? So.
You don't know.
Yeah, I need to mute someone quickly. Myself, that's not good. There we go. So this question of not knowing is actually really vital. It's something we have to both come to terms with, be willing to allow, right? And it shows up in many different ways in inquiry, right? In the practice of inquiry. So like you sit down, and even when you just ask, like every time you sit down to inquire, you ask like, well, so where am I? What's actually going on for me right now, right? And that invites a certain kind of discovery, right? It's not a It's not like necessarily an immediately obvious thing. Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm having this reaction, or I'm feeling this love, or I'm in the state of emptiness, and that's what I'm here with, and that's what I want to inquire into, right? But sometimes you really don't know, right? Often I sit down in sessions with students, and that's often what happens at the beginning. They're like, well, I don't really know what to bring here. I don't really know what to inquire into. And I think that's an amazing way to start an inquiry, because then you really have the possibility of finding out fresh, like, okay, what really do I want to look into? What really is up for me? Yeah. What really is happening right now? And you may have had an idea an hour ago, and that might have been true then, and it may or may not still be true now. Right? So to kind of hold it lightly, to hold our knowledge lightly and to go, well, maybe it was that, but let me find out in the moment what's really fresh. And in order to do that, I got to be willing to go, oh, maybe I don't really know. I don't know where I am, what I want to explore. It can come up in terms of as you start getting close to any part of your experience, right? So a feeling. What am I feeling? Well, I don't actually know what I'm feeling. And well, it feels, kind of feels sort of good. Yeah, it's kind of good. Right? And it's only as you hang out with it that it might take time to gradually reveal itself. You know, the what of the experience and giving ourselves time not to know what it is that we feel. What do we believe about something? Okay. I'm having this experience, like, what are my ideas about it? Right away, straight away, you don't really know. You're like, well, I don't know what I really think about this. Let me kind of hang with that. Let me give that some space. Let me allow that space of not knowing to be there so that the bubbles can pop, can begin to arise and reveal themselves. It's even more, actually, before I go there, it's even more relevant when we start coming to completely new forms of experience. So your inquiry is going to unfold, is going to take you places that you have never been before, by definition, right? Is in the nature of the practice that it will start taking you places that you haven't been before. And, you know, hallelujah for that, because otherwise you're just swimming round and round in circles, repeating the same old patterns. Right? So if inquiry is going to lead to growth and to change and growth by definition means something new, by definition means that you don't know it. You don't know it yet. So you are going to find yourself experiencing things that in the moment that they are arising, you really have no idea what that experience is. Right? I see this often happens when people move from the more familiar realms of experience, like familiar emotions, familiar thoughts, familiar reactions, familiar kinds of sensations in the body, especially when we start getting into things like emptiness. What are you feeling? I don't know. What's happening there? I don't know. Not much. Okay, what if you hang out with the not much? I don't know. I don't know what I can say about it. How is it affecting you? I have no idea. I couldn't say. I don't know what I'm feeling. Maybe I'm not feeling anything. Right? So these are very important things to give space to. It can be so easy to swim back towards something familiar. So you think, oh, let me go back and start talking about something that I do know, something familiar, something that, you know, I'm comfortable with. Or let me scramble around and get tense to try and find an answer because I think I should know. Or let me get all busy with my superego and beat myself up about how badly I'm doing this because I don't seem to be able to come up with something. These are the kinds of reactions that we can have to the not knowing, as opposed to just going, oh, yeah, I have no idea. I don't know what I am right now. I don't know what I'm experiencing. There's something happening in my chest, and I have no idea what that is. And as I hang out with it, I'm like, God, it feels like there's I don't know, like a galaxy or something. What the hell is, I have no idea what that is. Okay. All right. So to be able to not know, to give it space, and then to be able to see what you can say, what begins to get revealed. Something very interesting kind of happens in that process. You often see, like, we first recognize we don't know, and then there's kind of agitation or some kind of reaction with it, trying to know, pressure to know, thinking we should know. And then at a certain point, there can be a kind of relaxation. You're like, oh, okay, so I just really don't know. And you kind of hang there for a little bit. And then suddenly you're like, well, I can say this. This I can say. This I'm recognizing in the moment. Yeah. There's that moment of the recognition begins happening. The knowing begins emerging from the experience. So it can be very exciting, very relaxing, as many of you are saying. If you're not under pressure, if you're not supposed to have the answer, if the questions of inquiry are not like the questions of your grade 3 teacher going, what is 10 plus 10? And you have to come up with the answer quickly and say 20. When an inquiry partner says to you, well, or a teacher says, well, what are you experiencing there? If that isn't something that you have to come up with the answer and go, oh, it's this object relational, oh, it's the superego. Nah, forget that. You just relax. You let yourself not know. And then you see what you can say. You see what begins to emerge as it begins to emerge. Oh, what else did I want to say about not knowing? Another thing that we don't do with not knowing is just get up and walk off. Right? Oh, I don't know what that is. Okay, bye. I'm not going to inquire any more into that. I'm done. I don't know what it is. Who knows what that is? It's just something weird, probably nothing. Right? I'm inquiring and I suddenly get to this like little hard, dense something in my solar plexus. Well, it doesn't seem very interesting. I don't know what that is. Didn't read about it in any books. Might as well just, go and find something else to do. And this happens, right? And instead we want to go, oh, well, I really have no idea what that is. I don't know. Let me hang out with it and see. Let me give it some space. Let me stay close, feel into, all these things teachers say, feel into that. Sense into that. Let's just hang out with it and see what we can discover about it. And then your inquiry becomes an adventure, right? You're not busy trying to tick off, like, oh, it's this or that, or fit yourself into a map or anything like that. No, you're just exploring the immediacy of your truth, right? Just a joyful, free, curious exploration of whatever it is that might be going on. I mean, I've been talking a lot about the what's. It becomes even more obvious when we look at the why, right? The why of your experience, like, oh, I'm having this reaction. How come? How come I'm feeling like this? What's making me feel this way? You just feel that question, right? That's like an even wider kind of sensing. You're sort of feeling for an answer of what is it that this is connected to inside me, like that's making this happen. that also requires a lot of not knowing. And the truth is, a lot of the time, we really, really have no idea. We have no idea what's making that happen. And it's only as you stay with the experience and you hang out with it and you feel it and you give it time and you wonder what's making it happen, and it takes you from some reaction in your daily life, then takes you down to something from your history, some little young part of you, an object relation, a whole thing going on there. And you keep wondering, well, how come? What's making this happen? You begin to recognize, oh, because there feels like there's no love or there's no support. Oh, so there's something missing. What is that? How can I tell that? What's making that happen? Right? And that can begin to take you deeper. So this not knowing is really fundamental, to allow ourselves to have the bit of knowing that we have, right? That's beautiful. The knowledge that we have is wonderful, but to recognize that that's just a step. That's a step. And that our experience flows and unfolds and shifts. And that even what you knew about it 10 minutes ago, that was absolutely true in that moment, and you could tell was the truth, probably if you look at the experience now, it's probably a little different, possibly very different. Right? Something else might be revealing itself. So our not knowing then becomes a kind of openness, the openness that allows the inquiry to unfold and to reveal itself. And always our knowledge is like a little, what's the word? Like a little wave, a little horizon, a little frontier of knowledge, kind of expanding out into this infinite sea, right? This infinite possibility that we don't know. This vast mystery that's waiting to be discovered. So maybe that's enough. Get you going to do a little exercise for yourselves. It's also useful actually to understand what's important about needing to know. Right? So not knowing can make us feel unsafe. Right? We may have a whole history of it. Maybe in your history, like in those grade 3 classes, it just wasn't okay to say you didn't know. There was pressure as a child to know. Yeah, so that will affect how you're able to be with the not knowing. And really, if you come across those moments of not knowing and you see that you have a reaction to it, you see that it's difficult in your inquiry to not know, then that in itself can be a useful inquiry, right? Like, what's with this not knowing? How come it's difficult for me? What is it that goes on right here as I feel that I don't know, and I start feeling my legs contracting and feel a little panic in my belly and in my heart, and right? What is it that's happening there that's making this not knowing feel difficult? So the not knowing itself can become something to clarify, right, in the inquiry, something to explore and understand. And in that sense, not knowing, or rather your reaction to not knowing, is just another little fish in the water that you can explore. At some point you might need to. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little exercise to do. So you're going to get in groups of 2. Just a reminder that what happens in the breakout rooms is not recorded. So those are completely private, that what the other person says and what you say is completely private. So you don't repeat what anybody else says in a breakout room. You keep that to yourself, right? We hold that in a kind of sacred confidentiality to give everybody a safe space to explore. And there'll be 2 of you. There may be people with very different levels of inquiry experience. Maybe somebody's been inquiring for 30 years and somebody just started, right? And that's fine too. That's part of the magic of this particular forum. We have people of all experience levels here. And all you ever need to do, is just look at what's true for you. So the way it's going to work, you're each going to have, there are a couple of things you're going to explore. So it's in a couple of parts. So the first part is take 5 minutes and just explore your relationship to not knowing, right? Especially in your inquiry practice, if you do inquiry. If you don't do inquiry, you're new to it, just explore in general your relationship to not knowing. How is that for you? Is it easy? Is it difficult? Do you have reactions to it? What's some of your history with it? You can just look a little bit into how it is, how you are with not knowing. So it'll be 5 minutes each, right? So 5 minutes, one person goes, the other person is a completely neutral, silent witness. Don't say anything, just there and listening. And then you swap over and the other person goes. Then you want to take 5 minutes and just do a little 5-minute inquiry. So the way we normally inquire, right? You just dive in and explore what's going on for you. Where are you? What's up? What are you feeling? What kind of sensations are there? What's on your mind? What feels important? All the usual things we do in an inquiry. And what I want you to do is to particularly notice if there are moments of not knowing, like maybe you don't even know what to do in your inquiry. You're like, well, I don't even know how to inquire here. There you go. Right. You can just let yourself feel that experience of not knowing and see what that's like. So you do 5 minutes of just exploring where you are, what's going on for you, and just giving a little space to those moments of not knowing if they come up. So you'll each have 5 minutes to do that, 5 minutes each. And then at the end of that, you'll have a final 5 minutes, right? Just to share, how was it for each of you to notice the not knowing in the inquiry, right? Well, how was that like? How was it to just pay attention to those moments of not knowing? So very briefly, 5 minutes, explore your relationship to not knowing. 5 minutes each, open inquiry, and then 5-minute discussion, right? Explore. So how was it to notice the not knowing in the inquiry? Okay, that's going to be our exercise. So if you're not going to do the exercise in the breakout room, please drop off now. Now is your chance to drop off, because otherwise you're going to find somebody is going to be abandoned in their room without a partner. And we want everybody who wants a partner to have one. Okay, so let's go. Here we go. Those all look fine. All look good. Yeah, that all looks good. Okay, enjoy the exploration. It'll take 25 minutes. We'll add an extra 5 minutes just to say hi and for coming and going and all of that, or maybe a couple of minutes. We don't need too long for that. So we'll see you around about 1:45, a little bit before 1:45. Okay, enjoy. Oh, welcome back. We had some time now for questions, comments, sharing, a little time. So yeah, how was that for you? How was it to really make some space for your not knowing? Or what, if you have any questions about it? So you can raise your hand. Yeah, I can probably see everybody. So Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It started out the not knowing, because I didn't know how to get on here. And I was so mad and frustrated, and I was like, rah, 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 rah. And so, and then and somehow I have no idea what buttons I pushed, but I got on. So there's that not knowing. But then I guess maybe here my question is, the not knowing there's all the not knowing, and when I inquire, like the not knowing in my head, I want to know more, I want to know more. Oh, my throat clutches because that little inner critic says, you should know more, you should know more. And then I realized there's also the not knowing when your body, like, like go up your left leg, feel your left leg. I have no idea what my left leg is feeling.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So it's like these, so one I can have an argument with, or I can, go to a sadness, that old, and then the other is a not knowing the body. So I don't know, like not knowing in body, not knowing in head, heart,
Yeah.
not knowing in mind. Okay, I'll be quiet.
Many different things. So it's great. You're beginning to see different dimensions of it. I mean, the judgments of the superego are, of course, not themselves a not knowing, but it's an aspect of your inner world that is entangled in your not knowing. So, right. So the superego going, you should know more than you do, right? I mean, that's a judgment of the not knowing, right? The not knowing itself is, well, I just don't know, right? I just have no idea. So the superego is something interesting to look at. Another thing you mentioned there, very interesting, is the wanting to know, right? So there can be a wanting to know, a longing to know, a drive to know, right? That's true. I mean, our inquiry is fueled by our curiosity, our interest in ourselves, our longing to know. So these are all great to allow, right? Great to explore. If your superego gets on your case about it, you want to find out about it. Like, who says, how come your superego is giving you a hard time about it? Like, what's that about? That would be something to kind of look into. But ultimately, you want to see if you can give yourself the space for it, to actually just allow it. And the other thing I want to say very briefly is, like, when the not knowing comes up, of course, in practical situations, that's right, that, as you say, that can really bring a sort of be more challenging for us. Like, I need to get online. I don't know how to get online. I don't know how this works, right? That's an interesting experience in itself, just to go, okay, well, what's it like when I really don't know, how to do something? And a final piece is just that often there are things that we actually genuinely don't know and may never know. Somebody may do something to you, for example. You may never know why they did that, right? And that's the kind of not knowing that, we have to come to terms with. It's a whole, we'll have many reactions to it, and we have to explore it and open up to it. Yeah, thanks, Christine, just for highlighting those different elements. Umtrab, go ahead. You need to unmute yourself there.
Thank you. I think you already answered my question, because I am actually very fed up with not knowing what I want to be doing, what I enjoy doing, or what kind of hobby, or how I can spend my time. Winter is coming, and how can I use my time in a fruitful way? And you just said something there, we never know. I've been waiting for many years, hoping to find out.
So what happens, Umtrad, when you just ask that question? What could I do? How could I use my time? If you just feel that question.
It's just frustration.
Okay. Yeah, feel the frustration a moment. What's frustrating here?
It's frustrating having waited so long. And I just want to know.
You
I
want
to know.
You want to know? What do you want to know?
I want to know what I can be doing that feels nourishing.
Oh, okay, so you get more. So you want to know what to do. You want to know what to do that will feel nourishing for you. Oh, do you have any idea about things that feel nourishing for you?
No, this is it. That's where the not knowing is.
At all, right? In terms of any kind of activity.
No, I during your meditation today, I felt in my lower belly soap bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, right, that's an interesting image. You know, these soap bubbles just popping. Yeah, that was an interesting image. Because I feel I've been there, done it, bought the t-shirt. Yeah, haven't got a clue what it is I want to be doing.
Yeah, right. So there's a question, right? We can ask, like, what do I want? What do I want to do? Right? And to even be able to open to that kind of a question, to feel what comes up. So like part of what first comes up is frustration, right? But to kind of stay with the question and the not knowing and see what you can find out about it, right? It's like even how to find out what you might want to do, right? What you might enjoy or what you might find nourishing, or, right?
So I need to, what I want. Yeah, I just.
So in a certain way, it sounds like you almost don't even know how to ask the question, really.
Maybe not.
To engage with the finding out of what is it I might want to do.
Right.
Very interesting.
Let me write that down.
Yeah.
That.
What might I want to do? How to even find that out?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Amtra.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. What is the part of us that can begin to answer that kind of question? Yeah. Very good. Yeah, Jonah.
Hi.
Hi.
I've noticed that a certain knowing for me and the not knowing is really important. And it's the knowing that something will come.
Say that again. What's important is?
Like a certain knowing and the not knowing. And the knowing is that something will come. Like, because I could have fallen into some traumatized part in me that if nothing is there.
Yes.
Nothing. Yeah. So it's really important for me.
I see.
To know in the not knowing that something will come.
Right, right. And it's true that sometimes we can know that, we might have that idea. But when we really get deeply into not knowing, at some point the not knowing can become more complete, where you don't know. You can't tell if something's going to come. You just don't know, right? And there it will be important at some point to get to know that part of you that has difficulty with not knowing. Right? So there's some part of you, you say there's a trauma part, so something from your history that feels difficult about not knowing. Yeah. Do you know something about that part of you?
Yeah, it gets panic. It's panicking and like nobody's there. It's like survival. It gets very scared. Right.
So as you get more present in your inquiry and able to be with yourself and to be with that part, that will be helpful, because then you can be there, right, and be present with that little one that's panicking and freaking out, right, to help that part then relax and be able to be comfortable with the not knowing. But yeah, that's a process, that'll take time.
Yeah, but I'm curious when you say we come to a place where we not know if something comes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the not knowing, exactly, the not knowing can be so complete that you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's here. I don't know if anything's going to come. It can be like just a big total mystery, right? Which at first, to those young parts of us, might be really scary. But as you hang out with it, you might find, oh, it's just not knowing, just a mystery. In a way, it's actually always like that. We never really know what's going to happen in the next minute. Well, not really. But as you say, something seems to happen. Yeah. Yeah, great. Thanks. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, Sue.
Hi, Dom.
Hi.
I got an insight from this, which was about the tone of the question.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed like the way you asked in the meditation in the beginning, and I only realized this on reflection, where you said in your belly, it was really gentle, it was really curious, it was really kind. There was no edge of you have to find something out. Whereas sometimes, like let's say a teacher says, what's in your heart right now?
Mm-hmm.
There can be an expletive. Don't ask me about my heart. There's a kind of, because it's like I should know something. I should have a feeling. I should, there's a feeling of there's something, I should have an answer.
There's something there and you should know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And it also can be about the way I ask myself the question.
Yes.
So when you said about there's the what, and then there's the why, like, why do I feel that? If I ask that question of myself, why do I feel something, that can be a bit pointed, like I should have the answer, as opposed to, I wonder why.
Very nice.
Being open.
Yeah. So that's a great practice to kind of notice where you're kind of putting yourself on the spot, or where you're feeling put on the spot, and to begin to recognize that inquiry is just absolutely not about that. Never, right?
Exactly.
And that's kind of a bit of a learning, right? A re-education, that the questions are sort of, it's like they're contemplating curious attitudes, right? Or curious contemplations. Just like, that's why I like the whole diving thing. It's like looking at the reef and just going, like, what is that? Right? How
Exactly.
come it's
Open
there?
like this. It's kind of an open, as opposed to,
tell me what that is now.
Yeah. And it's the same words.
Yes, right, exactly.
Same words, but there's more space. Like also in your intro, it was spacious as well. The question was spacious. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I think that's dead right. The more that can come into your inquiry, the better, in a sense.
Yeah.
Good. So that's kind of what we have time for this evening. Just a little short exploration into knowing, well, not so much into knowing, but more into simply not knowing. And yeah, a general invitation in your practice, in your inquiry, like to really like give yourself the space to not know, and to kind of be at ease with it, and then see what you discover. Right? The inner world really is like that. If you kind of put pressure on it and put it under a spot, it kind of goes, whereas the more you can sort of like contemplate in an easy way, the more with the not knowing, that will invite things to, open up and begin revealing themselves. So beautiful. Good. Thanks for coming along. Lovely to see you all. We'll be doing this again in a month, and I don't know what the topic will be then, but we'll know before then. And yeah, I wish you rich inquiries. If you do have, here's a thought, if you do have any ideas about things you would like to see covered in these meetings, or questions like that you have about the practice, feel free to shoot them through. I'd really love to hear from you, and we can bring some of those into our sessions. Yeah, so that'd be nice. Good. Thank you, everybody. Lovely to see you. Have a good evening or morning.
Thank you.
Don.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
You're welcome. You too.
Thank you so much.